worked for Silvalea for nearly 23 years, so I've got a wealth of knowledge regarding slings and their suitability. I also know how mysterious they can be. So this session is to understand the basic shapes. So once you understand the basic shapes, what they can do, what they can't do, you can then apply that information, hopefully with your sling selection. We've got a lot of helpful information for you, which we can provide after the session. Alice will kindly bring up some posters as we go. So there is lots of backup for you, rather than trying to remember everything, which I know can be a bit of a minefield. So we are looking at the standard shapes today. That's the whole purpose of this training session. There are 6 standard sling shapes, and each of these shapes will have advantages and limitations, which I will cover. So I'll help you choose when to use them. But Alice, if you're back at your desk, can you kindly bring up the poster, the standard sling shape poster, which I've got here, and hopefully Alice will bring it up fully on screen. So
yeah,
you can
of course,
see.
just doing that now.
Thank you. So you can see what we're going to cover. As I said, there's 6 shapes, and we'll look at each of them in detail. I'll hoist up my colleague Judith. So this poster, which, as I said, I think it's downloadable. Certainly we'll get it to you if you need it. But the 6 on the left are the 6 standard shapes we're going to look at. You may recognise the shape. Lots of manufacturers call them different things, but they're based on one of these shapes. So all very similar. And all our slings, even our very highly complex ones, will be based on one of these. So what we tend to do is understand the need, the condition, and have a starting point. So we select a shape which we know will suit certain conditions, and then look at different things, whether we add things on, and the fabric choice, of course, and then sizing. Little few notes underneath about each style. On the right there are the extras you can add on, which I will go through. So this is just adding on to standard slings this session. Nothing more complicated than that. And then there's a little section there of where you would measure. Thanks, Alice. So that's what it's all about. So hopefully it'll be helpful to you. Please use the chat if you need extra questions answered. I will help as much as I can. But what we'll do first is look at our very, very basic shape. This is our fast fit. Jude, if you wouldn't mind, Jude's here to help me with this. Just to understand slings in general. So Silvalea make their basic standard shapes. Oh, we have a question. Let's just check, Alice. Somebody having difficulty maybe technically?
I can't see the screen, it's just blank.
Not helpful, is it? Okie doke. Any suggestions, Alice? Have you got anything over your camera?
No, it's your side. I can't see. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, what was it you can't see?
I can't see the recording.
Blank.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, I don't know. I'm really sorry. It might be better to leave and then come back.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Sorry.
Unless anyone's got a similar issue, let me carry on. I can recap if needed, but so Silvalea make their standard slings in polyester. Polyester is a good, robust fabric. This is the standard poly. Has a safe working load of 220, which is 35 stone. So all standards will have that. And even the smaller sizes. So the reason why we put that on is everything on this sling has been calibrated and carefully chosen to take in excess of that weight. Are we okay? For those that have just joined, would you kindly turn your cameras off, please, because we are recording the session, if that's possible. But yes, so the fabric, the webbing, the binding, everything's been calibrated to take the safe working load. The way that the manufacturers stitch the sling, 7 stitches per inch, and the threads that's chosen. So it's all really carefully checked, regularly calibrated to ensure you that you've got a product that, you know, is safe for use and you can, you know, have confidence in. Standard sizes are from extra small to extra large. There are smaller, and of course there are custom made that we can do, but certainly standard sizes. The sizes are denoted with a colour, and most companies will follow the same colour coding. So small is red, yellow is medium, large is green. So usually that's the same. The smaller sizes and the larger sizes may slightly vary, but most of the time it is across the board, it's the same. Labelling. The labelling is really important. So if you've got a sling that you cannot read the safety instructions, then you need to withdraw it from use. It's a loader regulation that you can read the safety information, so it's legible. So if you cannot read it, you need to withdraw it. So it's worth checking every time you use a sling so that you can check it is the right style, the right size, the safe working load, and things like that. So it must be legible. We now have woven labels, which don't fade like the printed ones. The old printed ones would fade quicker. So these are all now woven, really clear, lots of helpful information. So you've got everything on there that you need. The sizing label, the little service label, all of that's woven. There is a unique serial number for traceability on the sling, and a little grid there if you need to notch it in or mark it when the sling was serviced. So in line with Lola, the sling needs to be checked every time. It's every 6 months, 6 to 12 months, along with the hoist servicing. And it's an easy, competent visual check. So whoever's doing the servicing will check that there's no breakdown in the threads, there's no fading, there's no rippling of the threads on the tapes. That it is a competent little check, nothing more detailed, just to check that it has been carefully looked after. The laundering is also very important. We always recommend a non-biological washing detergent, a good quality one without bleaching or whitening agent, because the bleaching in a detergent and the whitening will fade the label. So if you're having that type of issue, then there's a reason, or that it's washed too high, dried at too high a temperature. That can then accelerate the wear. So you just need to be mindful of that. So those are just a few things. Handles, we have handles on our standard slings. Some people don't like handles, it encourages bad practice with moving, but we put them on because the demand is there. This is the fast fit, as I said, so it's the first style we're going to look at. Alice, if you could just kindly bring up the data sheet. So every sling we've got has a full data sheet and extra information on the website. So if you're looking at this style and you want a reminder, then the website will help you. So if we can just see that, then I can just point out a few things.
Yeah, just loading it.
Okay, that are helpful with regards to some of the USPs for this style, the fabric options, the things you can add on, measuring, where to measure, a sizing guide. So it's all those things that are really helpful, all in one place. So the website is really comprehensive at the moment, and we're adding things all the time. So these are our standard loop slings. Lots of photographs, so you can see how it looks on the person. You can scroll through. So good full body support there. And then underneath there's, you can show the data sheet. So this is a complete sheet that you can print off if needed. As I said, it's got everything in there to help with this particular style. So the sizing, the codes, where to measure, the sling dimensions, so things like that. There's also full size guide as well. and the instructions of use. And a little fitting video. So lots of things there for you. Thanks, Alice. Thank you. So let's just look at this one. So it is the first full body sling that's often used. It's very well known within the industry. We call it a fast fit. Other companies call it quick fit, easy fit, general purpose, universal, lots of different names, but this is what it looks like. This is the shape. I'm going to put it on Judith. Naturally, we're cheating. It's very easy. It's going to look easy, and I know it's not when you're actually faced with applying, but for the ease of the session, we're just going to use this open chair, and Judith, of course, is very compliant. Divided leg means we can get it down in a chair. The key thing is to get it to the base of the spine. So we need to get it as low as possible down here and make sure that the sling legs come around the buttock to make sure we've got it fully encompassing. Through like that. If you struggle, there's lots of things you can use like slide sheets, mitts to ease the sling in. There's lots of techniques, you probably are aware of that, but you know, if it's a struggle, then there's things that can help you. The key thing is to get it down here. Don't worry about lining up the top of the sling. So sometimes what I've heard that people get it on the shoulders here, that will sort itself out when we hoist. So the key thing is to get it as low as possible and the legs around the buttock and the legs positioned towards the back of the knee here. If you start with them back here, then they're going to bite in. It's not going to be comfortable. So position them towards the back of the knee. So if you're applying it on the bed as well, think about that. Get it low. Now we've got a little loop which we're going to cross to keep the legs together, prevent them from abducting. Naturally, if you don't want to do that, then you need to risk assess that they're not going to slip through, but it's possible. But we will just cross them. Tapes are colour coded so that you've got a visual reference the carers have for attaching them. I'm just going to bring in this. We've got a power hoist here, which is a Savaria hoist with the short clip, very clever little clip that lifts up, which we use, but I will touch on different hoists as we go. We start with a, thanks Judith, if you can manage, short shoulder, long leg. So it's a good starting point with if you're new to slings, then we put on short shoulder, long leg tapes. We'll take up the slack and we find that's too upright or not a very comfortable position, then we will lower down and reposition. It's a bit of a jigsaw to start with. You need to just make sure when you're choosing a style that then we've got the right style, the right size, then the right loops, and then document it. Once you've done the full risk assessment, document it all in the care plan so that there can be consistent care. I'm just taking up, okay? Yeah. Before you go too far, also, don't just carry on. Check we haven't got anything caught around the chair, or the tapes work loose or something's happened. So just double check. Don't carry on until you're sure. So let's have a look at the sling. Full body sling. So it's giving full body support. You can see here. There is a little area here, the aperture, access aperture. So effectively, this can be used for hygiene transfers if needed, as long as clothing has been removed, because you can see you can get to the area if you need to transfer to the toilet. Sizing on Judith, this is actually giving her shoulder enough support here. It's behind her knee enough, so this is fine. If she was a little bit taller, this top section may be further down, absolutely fine. But the key thing is it's coming around her bottom and supporting her legs in a good way. So I know this is a good size. The key thing is to check. You've got a couple of centimetres here, up to about 5. You don't want it too big, otherwise you'll be sinking and maybe slipping through. And if there's not enough around the shoulders on this style, then it could be falling out. So just double check that. On the sizing guide for this one, we ask for the shoulder circumference. Let me just check that everyone understands that. The shoulder circumference right around here, just slightly down from the top, because at the top of the shoulders it's narrower and you want the fullness. So just slightly down so that you get the circumference. Often we get this measurement across. It's not great, it's not helpful because we're not sure how big the fullness of the arm is. So we can, if you want us to help sizing, is go right round the shoulders there. Just you know, enough to, not tight, just firm. The other thing is, it's really important if you're measuring somebody in a chair and they're quite slumped, then you're going to take quite a narrow measurement then, or narrower. So if you're taking my measurement like that, and then as I open up, that could be too tight. So it's good to get someone in a good midline to help with getting accurate measuring. The back length is basically nape to base. So nape to base. And again, check the guide and certainly the sling dimensions as well, which will help you. So just looking at this shape, this is a general purpose shape sling. I would say it's suitable for general transfers, general compliance situations. Because if you get someone that's quite active and extends, this is going to shoot up into the groin. And if you've got a regular, you know, it may not give them enough support. So think about that. Think about standard situation, and then we can suggest that. The other thing is, as these leg straps come through, they come through and they go up to the hoist like that. They can slightly externally rotate the hip. So if you've got anybody that's got painful joints, arthritis, osteoporosis, anything like that, I would avoid this shape. It's very subtle, but if someone's in pain from the sling, there's a reason, and it could be that it's just slightly causing that rotation and discomfort. Let me just explain things we can add on. So certainly on this style, we can add a head support. Full head support would look like this. Let me show you. So it's an arched one. I've got this is a mesh fabric. So this is a mesh, and hopefully you can see through. It's got holes in, so generally used for bathing because the water drains through. But this one is a one with an arched head support. There are bones in, so they need to be taken out when laundered. But there's a head support tape to help support the head support if the bones are taken out as well. But they just feed through and back on themselves through the shoulder tapes. So quite straightforward. If that's too much, and sometimes head supports can do this, then we do have the option of a little accessory called a neck roll. And that would just nestle in the neck like that. Often a little bit more comfortable, supporting the neck. Again, they just get fixed through the tape on the shoulder and adjusted, the slider adjustments. Got someone that leans to the side, you can adjust it like that. So I think sometimes this is a bit of a better accessory for an alternative than a head support. So that's all to do with this style, with fast fit. Let me just check, see if there's any questions. Alice, how are we doing for questions?
Yep, no questions so far, Mandy.
Okay, brilliant. Let's look at the next style. So the next shape, the next most popular shape, will be our fast fit deluxe. Do you want to hold that, Jude? And we'll just hold them up to compare. This shape, very standard shape. This shape is a different shape in read. It's got different shaped legs. So they've got an extra tape and a different, very square. It looks a little, straight away, it looks very different. But again, it's very popular. We call it a fast fit deluxe. You might notice a quick fit deluxe, easy fit deluxe, hammock. But it's divided leg. So you fit it in the chair, thanks Jude. Again, get it as low as possible. But this time we've got these leg paddles that wrap around the femur. So they wrap fully around the femur. Oh, wait. And then connect together with a modesty strap here across the width of the leg. So feed that together. Bit more fiddly. We've done that. Then we take the outside tape, long tape, and feed it through the inner one. So this one effectively now is picking up the legs from the outside. So you're not going to get the rotation, you're going to get more support to the hip. So much more comfortable, as I said, from the first shape, for anyone that has got pain. Again, I'm going to just attach short shoulder, long leg. Just take up the slack gently, just to check we've got it all attached in position there. Okay, all right. So much more support to the thigh, the femur here. So more support there. Let me just move this so you can see. It's still a full body sling. You can see lots of support here. Still access for hygiene if needed. But this long paddle here that goes towards the knee here will give more support. Judith was a bit wriggly. Because of those individual legs, they're going to allow the legs to move independently. So much better for a wriggler, extender. It's got a divide, so any chairs with a pommel. And you can see that this tape now picks the leg up from the outside. So more comfortable. So this is a really good option. Often also used for long limb amputees. So amputees are always a worry. But anyone that's got a long limb amputation, knee and below, and standard slings could work, could be enough. This one often is a good starting point. So long limb, the residual limb would nestle within that paddle there. When the limb is shorter, then of course there's no weight in it and it can lift up and then potentially slide back through the aperture. So we'll look at another style if we have that situation. But if you think about the long limb ones, then absolutely fine. Again, we can add the head support. The other thing we can add on to standard slings is a waist support. Let me just explain that. So a little waist support would be added at the waist here. So it's just a little crossover with a plunk click buckle at the waist or chest. Depends on what's needed. Sometimes children, carers like to have it so that it wraps the sling and keeps it in place. And it's a good indication of the positioning. So it can be at the waist or chest or under the bust for a lady, higher if needed. It's very dependent on you where you would like that. They are fixed into standard slings. If you need to avoid a peg, things like that. So that's just the location is you'd have to tell us. But this one again can have the mesh fabric with bathing. Or if you need to just add a little neck roll. The other way of using this style, and I will just explain that. Just jump up, Jude, please. Is to hammock the legs. So if we lay one on top of each other like that, to sit down in there. Thank you. So you need to feed one underneath the other like that. And again, take the outer tape, the longer one, the longest tape, through the smaller one. And then it would pick up like that. Potential to fall through or to topple forward, so you must really risk assess for this. But if you've got somebody that wears a skirt, a dress, they're very compliant, they're not going to be wriggly or active, then of course then it may be worth thinking about. It will close the aperture up, but it may be, you know, it's suitable for a certain person. You might need to sort of slightly recline so that you're not too upright, and possibly add a chest strap or waist support just for security. But because of the squareness of this, and you'll see that in the images when you look at the drawings, it's a very square shape. So the legs naturally will sit nicely in that position. Okay, thanks, Jude. So that's the Fast Fit Deluxe shape. Have we got any questions on this one, Alice? You okay? Everyone still with me?
No questions, Mandy.
Okay, I'm just going to hold that up with Judith, because the next shape is a very similar one in principle with these leg paddles, but it's slightly more angled. And this is the Universal Deluxe. So the Universal Deluxe, same sort of family, but happens to be my favourite. My favourite in the fact that I know it's suited many conditions very successfully over the years. There's less fabric. It's not so big as the Fast Fit Deluxe. But again, it's divided leg. Same principle with the leg paddles. They're going to wrap around the femur. So we just put them round here. Okay. And this one's connected by a loop at the top. It's not so generous as the previous one, so it's a bit, you know, less bulky. But again, you take the outer tape through. So we're getting, you know, the same pickup from the outside. So still very good for anyone that has pain or they need more support to the leg. And you go short shoulder. Okay. No. Oh, she did matching really well, thank you. So I'm just going to take up the slack a little bit. Oh, yes. This is a really comfortable sling. It's, as I said, there's less fabric, so it's not so generous around the body, because the other one, the previous one, was very square. This one is angled. So the legs are angled around here, but give really good femur support. Again, very good for long limb amputations, very good for wrigglers. You've got a wriggler because you've got the divided leg, individual support from those leg paddles. Still full body, still has an aperture for toileting if needed. But what I've done with this one, I've added, for those that may have noticed, an extra tape. I'm just going to, if that's just stop spinning. So this is a hip tape. These can be added to most styles. And what hip tapes do, so if you think about your position like that, have a tape there and it will literally lift the hip. And it can be really helpful if you've got someone that's got painful joints. So it will lift, it will distribute the weight, and it takes pressure from behind the knee. So it's a really good addition. I'll show you what they look like. They can be detachable or fixed. I'm just going to unhook one and bring it closer to the camera. See. So it's a tape like this. So you feed it through and knot it on itself. But it's got a slider. So a slider there. Hope that's clear enough. With a little plastic tab there. Or those that have had these before, maybe a metal D-ring. We're moving away from metal, trying to you know, take away that clunkiness of the metal. So now it is a bar. And the reason we've got that bar or D-ring is if I extend this, I struggle then to get open that loop. So it's really difficult to open the loop. So the bar and all the D-rings there, it helps to keep the loop open. So what we need to do is get the setting correct. So once we've fed it on the onto the sling, we need to find the right setting. Now, for this particular situation, I need to lower Judith down. because it needs to fit and have the same tension as the leg. So it picks up simultaneously as the leg. Bit loose now, so it's doing nothing. So I need to tighten it. If it's too tight, it's going to force the hips forward. So you've got to get it right. But once you get it right, just push that tab out of the way. But it will just subtly lift. It makes a huge difference. If you've got a chance to try one, you can feel the difference it makes. So really good for, as I said, if you're trying to resolve pain. The other good thing is that if you've got anyone that's very asymmetrical, you can adjust the tapes asymmetrically. If they're hanging and you know they're twisted and their legs are windswept, you want to do that, then these are good to adjust asymmetrically. As are tapes, you know, if you want to hook up one side shorter, you know, risk assess it. It means that then perhaps you've not got someone holding that person in because they're hanging out. So you just do that. So it is possible. And certainly the hip tapes are really useful. Just let me check. Are you okay, Alice? Any questions on that?
No, no questions so far, Mandy.
So we've seen 3 styles. We're cracking on. So again, we're still standard. So this is a standard sling, can be made in the mesh, can have the head support, waist support, or the chest strap. So still can add on to this. This would have to be used in the traditional way. So the legs aren't long enough to hammock. So this one you'd have to use in the divided leg position. Thank you. Right, I'm just going to show you the next style, and it's basically the family of this shape. So for those that know slings well, this is our long seat shape, but you can see it's actually, there's no aperture, there's no divided legs, so we need to put this on the bed, which means you need to either roll or introduce sling with flat sheets. It's too tricky to get on in a chair, but very straightforward oblong. This one is made in mesh, so often used for bathing, but the one we prefer to offer nowadays is the recline. Now I've got it on a different waist here, and I will explain. This is set up as a little bit of an amputee scenario. So because of the shape of the sling, it picks up like a seat basically. There's no aperture. So for amputees that have got really short single bilateral through hip situations, then this is the only style that really will be suitable. This particular version, although it's the oblong shape, it has a little pommel in the middle. And that gives a little bit more security. And also it lifts that centre here. And by lifting it, it helps with the distribution. It won't roll the knees in. So sometimes with hammocking, that can happen. It's forcing the knees together. Whereas this one is quite good to help prevent that. Also comes with provision for the hip tape. So that's on this as standard. This one is made in, as standard, in Superfine Plus, which is our 3D compression spacer fabric. Those that know sling fabrics, this is a sling fabric that can be left in place for extended periods if needed, subject to risk assessment, of course. But often with this shape, once it's on, it's tricky to get off. So it may be worth thinking about a sling that can be left in. It is a spacer mesh. It can be used for bathing. It will compress down. There is a bit of airflow, but it works well in this shape. So if you need this shape, then we would generally supply it in this fabric. Again, we can add it with a head support, chest strap, waist support, things like that. So you can have those added. Used for all scenarios, not just amputees. So any situation, we could consider it, subject to the condition, of course. We could add an aperture. So that we have added, you know, the aperture there, so people can have several, one for general use, one for hygiene purposes. And then, of course, you'd have to position it accurately in order for it to be used for hygiene transfers. But this is the in situ recline. So if you're looking on the website, it's on the in situ section called the recline sling. Any questions? Okay. I just want to mention hoists. So hoists are really important. And if you're trying to problem solve and you've got some significant issues with slings and hoists, then the success is down to both the right sling and the right hoist. Because if you've got somebody that's quite large and you're putting a sling on to a narrow spreader bar, it's going to do that, retract, because the sling tape will have to go up to the spreader bar width. So it's really important if you've got someone with significant pain to check the width of that spreader bar. And it's as wide as they are, or slightly wider, so the tapes can go out and not cause them to protract and squash them. So, you know, there are lots of options these days. This one, of course, has got the extra hook, very helpful to take the sling out if needed. But just be mindful. Often the sling is blamed, but sometimes it could be the hoist as well. If you've got someone that's got very poor tone and they're very folded up and they've got very painful joints, you need to try and open it up, often with a 4-point, take the tapes out. You know, for very challenging situations, that will help. So, you know, just bear that in mind. If you have issues, please contact us though, because, you know, we do have a good team here, wealth of knowledge that will help you, will guide you. Certainly we can help give advice. So that's the in situ recline. Are we okay with that style? Yeah, any questions, Alice?
Nope, no questions so far, Mandy.
Right, so now we're on to this style. So this is everyone's favourite because it will allow lots of access for toileting. This is a dress sling, hygiene sling, toileting sling, whatever you call it. As you can see, there's not much to it. So this has to be very carefully risk assessed. The Silvalea version has a Velcro and a clump clip fastening, so double security there. The other slight design for ours is got these very shaped legs here. There's slight scalloping to the leg, which means there's a bit more access if you're doing a toilet transfer. The other thing is the waistband. The waistband is stitched really wide as far as possible, so it goes round here to give as much trunk support as possible. You know, there are some that are stitched just back here, and that means there's a lot more play. But this is quite good. Very easy to fit. So we're not struggling to get it down because it's only going down to the belt line here. So it's fitting here around there. Yeah, let's move on. So putting the waist support, click. Okay. Leg sections, they're quilted so that they can then give a bit more comfort around the leg. And then we cross them through here. Again, if you don't cross them, they will splay and the legs will abduct. Maybe it's more comfortable, but that will be down to the risk assessment. So quickly up. Go on, green. Just putting on a higher loop so that it's not in, the hoist isn't into the space here. Okay. Again, just double check we've got it on, it's all attached. Okay? Yeah. Right, let's have a look at this one. This is why carers like this, because there's lots of access. So effectively, we don't have to do a double transfer to the changing table or the bed to get clothing off. They can put this on, and then with loose clothing, they can access for hygiene. So it's a good shape. It is a good shape, but there's lots that can go wrong. I'm just going to, oh, sorry, Jude, just going to ask Judith, because she's holding her weight. If she slump, if you lose tone now, what's going to happen? Okay, this. So not great. So the reasons why this is happening, let's just show you. You may have patients, clients that think, oh, okay, this is still fine. I need this sling. I'm not going to give it up. I'm fine. But it is not. You know, it really is not. Let's just give you some tips to help put this on better, to help lengthen the life of using this. I'm just going to undo it. So the first thing to do is so you fit that waistband at the waist. It's a waist support, not a chest support. So it's got to be at the waist and as firm as possible. So that's the first thing. Then put your click on. And the front click has got a slider buckle, so you can pull it and keep it firm. So that's the, you know, get the waistband low and fitted. Then let's put it on the bottom. Legs, long legs. The next tip is as we take up the slack, and with the majority of people, so you sat in your sling, Hoist takes up the slack, the waistband, your body elongates and the waistband loosens off. So at that point, check in. If it's loosened off, pull on the webbing strap. The key thing is to keep that waistband down. So we've done that. That's as firm as we can get it. Okay. So Jude, can you slip through it now? The knees up, you're swaying, and she's swaying. So we've done those two things, and it's made a huge difference. If she is still slipping through, then think about going down the sides as well. So you don't want it generous. So those three little tips will really help. Fit it low at the waist, tighten it as the body thins out, and think about smaller size. Then you should have a bit more support. You've got to get as much as you can from this. If it's biting in under the arms, you see here, you need to get a couple of finger widths under the axilla there. Because if it's done that riding up, there's reasons it's doing that. Generally, it's because it's been fitted too high and they've slumped in it, or it's too big. This one's got a padded roll, which will give a bit more support or a bit more comfort. But actually, if it's fitted properly, you don't need that roll because it should be away from the underarm. So just make sure that those few little tips are followed, and then you should have a bit more life out of this style. Let's just check. Sometimes there's lots of questions with this shape, just in case you've got a query. Alice, are there any questions with this one?
No questions, Mandy.
Yes. But we've actually seen 5 families of slings, and as I said, when you get a chance, have a look at the poster and you'll see different shapes. And hopefully, you know, we've helped with what each one can do and what they can't do. But all those 5 we've seen are slings that go on loop type systems. So they've got tapes with loops on. If, however, you have a hoist with a stud, let me bring one in. Then this is a stud or wishbone type spreader bar. It needs a different sling shape and it has a different fitting. So this is I mean, it's a great shape hoist because you've got lots of freedom here. You've not got the bar that's in front of you. So in many ways, it's nice. And the sling that goes on it is our high easy shape. And it has these clips. So this is a universal clip that locks onto these studs. So it locks on like that. One clip per shoulder, one clip per neck. So very useful for anyone that is, you know, it's simple. It's a simple sling. So for carers, it's straightforward, and they don't need all that, you know, all those choices. Everything I've got something popping up. No, popping up on my hoist. Oh yeah. Sorry guys, just got a button splashing. So in many ways, it's, you know, it's a good shape. Often this type of hoist is in acute hospitals, but because of the design, it picks up somebody, unless you've got a spreader, electrical spreader, in a natural position, which is slightly reclined. So the sling will always have a head support because it picks up in a natural position there. And the legs are only coming up to just above the knees. The legs on the sling are quite short. It's a very specific shape. If you don't have anything to do with this type of hoist, then that's one less to think about. But Alice, are there any questions on the high easy shape?
No, no questions, Mandy.
Okay, right, that's about it. Hopefully I've kept your attention, but if there's anything you've missed, we can review in a minute. But this poster, as we showed earlier, will remind you of the shapes, what they look like, a few little points about them, but also refer to the website. The only other thing that I was going to share with you is that we do have an alternative tape now, which is our silver safety slot. This is attached to certain styles as standard, but it is another option. So it's very clever, streamline tape, all in one, but with these clever little notches for the pickup position. Folds up neatly, so you know it is a very good streamlined tape. If you're worried about all the tapes hanging, getting caught up, people getting tangled in them, then there is an option of the silver safety slot tape. These will go on most standards, but you'd have to request them. So just check with us first. There's lots of information on the website if you want to have a look anyway, just so that you can understand them a bit more. But that is, as it's on the poster, I thought I'd mention it. But that's what we'll send you. The other thing that we will let you have, which could be helpful, is a sling selector poster. Alice, have you got that available, or should I just hold it up?
Yeah, I'll load it in 2 seconds. We just got a query about the safety slots. So just wanted to ask about sling loops being slots. Some families finding this very stiff to put on spreader bar with hooks. Does it soften with use?
The slot. Okay, so if you're using the slot, they probably will. They will soften with use. If you don't get on with them, just go back to the loops. So certainly the options there. They do slot on really easily, but if they're finding them, they do. You know, you have to open them up, but it depends on the individual. So it's, you know, if it's not something that they're getting on with,
Confirm the hoist.
Yeah.
Check.
But again, check which hoist it's going on. Some hoists have a little catch or a disc. Maybe that's causing a bit of an issue to get that on. But you know, check. They probably, you know, if you're not sure, check with us. We will answer that separately. But is there another one? Another question? No. This is our sling shape selector. These slings will be on the website in full detail, but it's like a picking list. It's been devised for anyone that needs to pick a range. and it's quite useful. I think people do find it helpful. They're listed in families of shapes. So we've looked at the first column of these basically, which are standard slings, but it's all the straight leg ones, the deluxe leg ones, the hammocking ones, things like that. So, you know, you've got help with the shapes. There's also harnesses, stand aids, etc. So it is a good little poster. If you've got to pick a range or you need, you know, to see what's about at a glance, then we can let you have a copy of this. I think Alice will send out a feedback form and then kindly ask you to feed that in. Any constructive feedback's helpful, then we will get a poster out to you. But that at a glance is everything on the website. We hope we have in stock and that we can issue quickly. Thanks, Alice. So we tend to try and limit the range now to just those. The majority will be available for quick dispatch, subject to sizing and availability. But thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Hopefully it's been helpful. Are there any final questions that anyone would like me to answer?
No questions have popped through yet, but just to let you know, we can send the Sling Selector poster out. We just ask for some feedback, as we do after every session, to know that we're covering the right topics for you guys and that you're enjoying them and finding the sessions useful. If there's anything you'd like Amanda and the team to cover, then just add that on the form. If it's something that you come across and you want some advice on, then we can make bespoke sessions. So just let us know, but I will send the Sling Selector poster form out once we've received that feedback.
Brilliant, thank you. We're here to help you. We have lots of ways to help. We can do an e-assessment, so one-to-one e-assessment if needed. If you're struggling to understand something, we can set up another session just for your group. We can show you some slings. So certainly if you have an issue, please let us know and we will try and help as much as we can. But thank you for your time. Thank you to Judith for helping me and to Alice for keeping the technical side going. And hopefully we'll see you again in the future. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.